Picabier's magazines and mechanical paintings connect the Zurich Dadaists with the most hermetic and radical of all the anti-art artists, Marcel Duchamp. Born into a prosperous bourgeois family in Normandy, by the age of 25, Duchamp's painting has evolved through a rapid succession of styles. Then he reacts violently against painting as a source of pleasure.
I wanted to put painting once again at the service of the mind, to establish myself as far as possible against pleasing or attractive paintings.
1912. Duchamp paints nude descending a staircase, an analysis of a moving figure influenced by photographic research.
In one of Mare's books, I saw an illustration of how he delineated the different movements of people who fence or horses galloping. There was no flesh, only a simplified anatomy, up and down, the head, the arms and legs.
1913. Duchamp paints a chocolate grinding machine.
It was there that I began to think I could avoid all contact with traditional pictorial painting, which is found even in my own nude descending a staircase. Taste is a habit, the repetition of something already accepted. Good or bad, it's still taste. But mechanical drawing upholds no taste, since it lies outside all pictorial conventions.
Duchamp continues his struggle against the tyranny of taste by mounting a bicycle wheel onto a stool. Next, he selects a bottle rack from a Paris shop. He calls these objects ready-made works of art.
To choose a ready-made, I had to beware of its look, because after 2 weeks you begin to like it, or hate it. You have to approach the object as if you had no aesthetic emotion. The choice of ready-mades is always based on visual indifference.
1915. Duchamp arrives in New York. He signs a urinal with the name R. Mutt, entitles it Fountain, and enters it in the Society of Independent Artists exhibition. This work is suppressed by the Society, and a protest about the incident appears in a New York Dada magazine.
What were the grounds for refusing Mr. Mutt's fountain? Some contended it was immoral, vulgar. Others it was plagiarism, a plain piece of plumbing. Now, Mr. Mutt's fountain is not immoral. That is absurd. No more than a bathtub is immoral. Whether Mr. Mutt with his own hands made the fountain or not has no importance. He chose it. He took an ordinary article of life and created a new thought for that object. As for plumbing, that is absurd. The only works of art America has given are her plumbing and her bridges.
In New York, Duchamp works on his large glass, the bride stripped bare by her bachelor's Eden, painting and inscribing onto a glass panel a number of forms which appear to add up to a mechanistic representation of sexuality. Duchamp's notes describe the function of each element in the glass.
Bride above, bachelors below. The bachelors serving as an architectonic base for the bride. This latter becomes a sort of apotheosis of virginity. At the place where this eroticism is revealed, which should be one of the principal cogs of the bachelor machine, this tormented gearing gives birth to the desire part of the machine. The bride at her base is a reservoir of love gasoline, or timid power. This timid power, distributed to the motor with quite feeble cylinders, in contact with the sparks of her constant life, explodes and makes this virgin blossom who has attained her desire. The chocolate of the rollers, coming from one knows not where, would deposit itself after grinding as milk chocolate. The bachelor grinds his chocolate himself.
After 8 years of work on the large glass, Duchamp abandons the project, declaring his work is definitively incomplete. In 1918, Germany is disintegrating in the wake of famine, military chaos, and the collapse of the Kaiser's government. Richard Hulsenbeck brings Dada from Zurich to Berlin. In Berlin, Dada is primarily political and collective.
The manifesto as a literary medium answered our need for directness. We had no time to lose. We wanted to incite our opponents and, if necessary, to create new opponents for ourselves. We hated nothing so much as romantic silence and the search for a soul. The soul can only reveal itself through direct action. The Dadaist Central Revolutionary Council demands 1. The international revolutionary union of all creative and intellectual men and women on the basis of radical communism. 2. The introduction of progressive unemployment through the comprehensive mechanization of every field of activity. 3. The immediate expropriation of property and the communal feeding of all. The erection of cities of light and gardens which will belong to society as a whole and prepare man for a state of freedom. We further demand daily meals at public expense for all creative and intellectual men and women on the Potsdamer Platz. Compulsory adherence of all clergymen and teachers to the Dadaist articles of faith, the most brutal struggle against the concealed bourgeois tendencies of expressionism, introduction of the simultaneist poem as a communist state prayer.
George Gross draws portraits of Berlin society.